We recently sailed on Royal Caribbean's Allure of the Seas and had a marvelous time.
Except for a few things.
You're not going to want to miss them. Today we're going to go over our 5 most loved and 5 not so loved things about the Allure of the Seas.
Hi friends, and welcome back to another Allure of the Seas video. We recently sailed for the first time with Royal Caribbean on the Allure, and if you want to watch the full vlog series and the tips and tricks video and a full ship tour from that cruise, I will link that playlist down below and up in the corner.
Is it your corner or your corner?
It's my corner.
Because when they look, oh yeah, top right. We've taken a little bit of a break from posting videos about the Allure of the Seas to give ourselves a little bit of time to go over the things in our own mind that we loved and didn't so much love about the ship so that we could bring them to you.
And so we're ending on the good note. We're gonna jump in with the things that we didn't love so much, but I'm gonna give a little disclaimer here. We really, really loved this ship.
Yeah, we had to think about stuff that we weren't just enamored by.
Some of them might be a little bit of a stretch, but you know, it's things to consider if you want to sail on the Allure. So let's jump in with the number 1 thing that we didn't like so much on the Allure.
Number 1. This was definitively the thing that we were immediately struck by when we got to our room, and that was the room itself was pretty outdated. The alarm clock that was in the room still had an old like iPod charging mount type thing in it. They don't even make devices that charge like that anymore.
That's pretty funny.
The room was fine, don't get us wrong. It did what we needed it to do, and I thought there was plenty of space and it was well used. It just needed updating. Real bad.
There were no USB plugs, which I know is a newer thing, but the Allure was supposed to go into dry dock and be refurbed right before the pandemic or right after the pandemic. So they scrapped that project, but it is going in for a refurb in a few years, I believe. It's scheduled for that. So we may see these changes coming up, but if you're sailing on it in 2024, just know that these rooms are a little bit older. And number 2, the complimentary food, the food that was included with your fare of the cruise, was fine.
Palatable.
Totally eatable, but it wasn't spectacular by any means. We only ate in the main dining room for dinner once. It was Italian night, which for one isn't my personal favorite, but
it is mine.
So you can speak to it better than I can.
I thought that the way the food was prepared was a little bit amateurish. It generally was very homogeneous in texture and just not well executed.
Mine was salty. I already remember it being very salty.
Yeah.
And the buffet food, we had a couple really, really good things in the buffet, but it just wasn't spectacular. We had sailed on the Norwegian Joy just 2 months before we were on this sailing, and the food was so good.
The complimentary food was so good.
It was really, it blew us away actually. So I think we went in with kind of a high standard and it just didn't quite meet that. Again, it was fine. You could eat only complimentary food, not spend $1 on specialty dining, and you'd be happy, but it just could be a little bit better.
Number 3, on the topic of complimentary food, the buffet, the Windjammer Cafe, was not, didn't flow, we'll say.
It's a weird setup.
It was complicated. There would be times when you could enter from either side of the cafe, but not all the time. There would be times when one side was closed and the other was open and it wasn't consistent. And the setup inside was a little strange. I felt that people got in each other's way far too easily. It was really not clear what direction the traffic was flowing.
The stands themselves were up against each other. And so you kind of would like bump into people going between the 2 different sections. It was just overall a really, I think, poorly designed setup.
Yeah, logistically not well set up.
Number 4, it was rare that at any given point on our cruise, we saw both of the flow riders or both of the rock walls open at the same time. I actually think I didn't see the one side of the rock wall ever used.
I never saw anybody on it.
So I don't know if that was a staffing issue or if that's just sort of how they run it on the Allure, but at times that did mean that there could be some lines for those activities just because there wasn't as much space being utilized.
And the look of it sort of made it seem as though those areas were underutilized. I'm sure they would have been utilized if they were open, but that did give me the feeling that perhaps there should be something else there that would be more utilized. So I'm not sure it gives the right aesthetic to have them not operational.
Yeah, makes it look a little bit sad.
Yeah. And number 5 on our short list of things we didn't love so much about the Allure of the Seas is the Boardwalk area. This is a transitional space between the inside of the ship and the outside as you're walking towards the Aqua Theater where Oceanaria occurs, and some of the steps up to rock walls and things like that. There's little eateries there and
Johnny Rockets.
Yeah, the Johnny Rockets. And like carved, oh, there's a carousel. It does look like a boardwalk area, but that vibe doesn't seem to fit there. It felt like a forced theme that didn't have a place there, and every time I walked into it, it was a little jarring.
I also don't think they needed Johnny Rockets on board.
I saw people eating there, but like...
Not a lot.
Not a lot, and there's better restaurants. Let's
Yeah.
just be honest, there's better restaurants.
I think the area is fine, but I agree. It's kind of like, I think more could be done with it. And a lot of the little places were closed a lot of the time, so it wasn't utilized. There was never really a lot of people back there. So it's just kind of a strange area on the ship, and I think that it could do for some refurb.
For sure.
Okay, so those were the 5 things, and really 3 of them, whatever. No big deal. They're not gonna hurt you if you're on this cruise.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have a great time regardless.
So, let's get into the things that we love. Before we get started, put in the comments down below if you've sailed on the Allure of the Seas or a comparable ship with Royal Caribbean, what you love about them. And let's just jump in with number 1. I don't know if this is all Royal Caribbean. I don't know if this is just at Port Canaveral. I don't know, but our embarkation and debarkation of the Allure was the fastest, smoothest, most wonderful experience.
Unbelievably flawless.
We didn't know what to expect. We have never sailed with them before. We had never sailed out of Port Canaveral, and we were early. We were maybe like an hour and a half
We were well ahead of our time.
before we were supposed to be there, but we flew in that morning. We took an Uber there. And they just said, come on in. And there were no lines for anything. I think this was around 10:30.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely after the check-in time had started. And when I say like there was nobody in the check-in area, we got through the security check-in super fast and walked into the area that was full of chairs as though they planned to hold thousands of people.
And it was empty.
And they were all empty.
They had us come over to check in, and I think it may have taken 30 seconds longer because the picture I had submitted wasn't good enough. So they took my picture really quick and they said, okay, go ahead. And we sort of went,
Go ahead where?
blink, blink.
What do you mean?
And they said, get on the ship. It was
Wild.
It was so good, and getting off the ship was pretty much just as easy.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. They definitely ran a very efficient operation
Yeah.
in that regard. And honestly, I'm excited to experience again, or see if we do
Yeah.
experience it again, because we will have more Royal Caribbean cruises coming up. So you're gonna wanna make sure you're subscribed and that you've got that bell checked so that when we post videos about it, you know. Okay, number 2 on the list of things that we loved was everything to do on the ship. And I know we just got done talking about how there's these weird areas on the ship that don't feel like they fit, but the areas that they did find something active to do with, man, they nailed. And we even missed the day in Coco Cay, so we had to spend more time on the ship, and we were not want for things to do.
Of course, this is the biggest ship we had ever been on, so we were hoping there would be a lot to do, and we weren't disappointed. And not only are there activities, but there's also all of the game shows and all of the presentations, and there was just always something going on. And if you didn't want to do any of those things, there were like a dozen bars and lounges that you could go and grab a drink and sit at and just hang out. If you are someone that does not want to be bored, I think one of these giant ships is definitely the way to go, because there's always going to be something to do. We didn't even step foot in a pool the entire time we were on the ship.
Didn't have to.
Number one, it was pretty cold, but also we didn't have to because there is always something else for us to be doing. And number three of things we love, that would be the specialty dining. We ate at 2 restaurants and then the Taste of Royal lunch, which is kind of its own separate thing. And every meal we had was really fantastic. That Taste of Royal lunch was one of the best meals I've had on a cruise ship, hands down.
Oh yeah, I still think about that. And not even that, but both of the other restaurants we ate at were incredible. Sabor and Izumi. The quality of the food, the quality of service in both locations, especially the service, it just was like top tier. For the environment that we were eating in, it felt I don't want to say overdone, but it felt like I would look around and go like, I feel like I'm getting much better treatment and much better quality food.
For what it is.
For like where I am.
Yeah. We did not try Giovanni's. We did not try Chops. We ate the Taste of Royal lunch, but didn't eat at 150 Central Park as a normal restaurant. So there were still so many places that we didn't get to try because it was only a 4-day cruise. So we just didn't get to them. On the next Royal ship we are sailing on, there is a Giovanni's and there is a Chops. So we will definitely check those out because if they're anything like the other restaurants we tried, we're going to love it.
Number 4 on the list of things that we absolutely loved about this ship were the crew members. We just talked about the level of service that we got at the restaurants, but it didn't stop there. Every crew member interaction I had on the ship was efficient, professional, helpful, fun. I felt like I already knew them.
We only had to go to guest services once, and it was just for a basic question. They were so helpful, and the information they told us was completely correct. I didn't do the flow rider, but Jake took a lesson with the sports staff. They were so nice.
Oh yeah, very good teachers, very good instructors.
They were great. Yeah, everyone was so nice.
Yeah,
and
the parade,
oh my gosh.
The interactions during the parade, very personal interactions.
Our stateroom attendant, she would just chat with us. She was wonderful. I think pretty soon she'll be on the Icon. She was really excited for that. And it was so great. We are people that have a Disney standard of service. We really compare everything to the first cruise we went on, which was on the Disney Wonder, which was absolutely phenomenal. And I think this was really close, if not equal to the service on that ship.
Yeah, no doubt.
And number 5, opposite to the Boardwalk area, we loved Central Park. The second I walked into that area, I knew it was going to be my favorite part of the ship, and it definitely was. Having a space that you're outside, but you feel like you're kind of in a city, but you're floating in the middle of the ocean, was so weird and so cool.
It was a weird brain thing going on. But not just the looks of it. I mean, what they did with the space was so cool. There was, I think every evening, very, very good musicians out there playing well-themed music for the space.
Yeah.
Like the way they've moved the walkways through everything makes it feel like a bigger space than it is as you walk through it. It's really quite impressively designed.
There are the 3 main restaurants there. There's also Park Cafe, which was a great place to just go and grab a bite to eat if you didn't want to go to the actual buffet.
There is the wine bar there too.
There's a wine bar. There was the trellis bar outside. I just love that area, and that there is plants. You're on the ocean and you're just surrounded by trees. I thought that was so well done, and I know I keep saying about this cruise we're going on in the future, but there's not a Central Park on that ship, and I'm kind of sad about it because I love that area. I'm sure we'll find somewhere else that we love, but I can't wait to go on another ship with a Central Park because it's so great. I could spend my whole time there.
Big win.
Bonus. This one is just for me. You may not care about this literally at all, but since I was 10 years old and I started to see that there were ice rinks on cruise ships, it became a bucket list item that I wanted to ice skate on a cruise.
We sure did. Well, she did.
And I finally got to do it. And I hadn't skated in many years and I fell, but it was fine. It was amazing. It was everything I had hoped for. And then we got to see an ice show that night.
A very entertaining ice show.
It was really great. And I mean, just the fact that there is an ice rink on cruise ships. I sometimes I still can't wrap my brain around it.
We're living in the future.
It was great. So make sure you check out Studio B.
Well, that's all for today. I think we've gushed about the Allure of the Seas enough. Hopefully we've convinced you to give it a try. Do check out our tips and tricks video on the Allure of the Seas for a little bit more detail about how to get the most out of your cruise experience. We've got lots of videos from the Allure of the Seas and cruising in general. So if you haven't subscribed, please do so below.
Down there.
And click the bell so that you know when we post more videos and you can come on back and watch those too.
And give this video a thumbs up. It really helps us know that you are liking the content we're putting out. But thanks so much for watching. And until our next video, stay magical. I am talking just to test the sound. This is how I talk. I present things and then I do things, but this is just a sound test because I need to make sure the sound works before we film videos.
I'm just a little guy.
And number 2.
Really?
We only ate in the main dining room for dinner once. Might as well just wait. I think my one last solitary pair of underwear is being delivered today.
Ever? Your last
No. I ordered 12. 11 of them came in one package, and then one came in its own package a few days later.
Male guy, if you're watching this, thanks.
You're a true hero.
You're swell. For the day in Coco K. Key. K?
K. It's K.
K? On it.
No, so I don't know if it was a staffing issue.
There's a small stampede happening in your house.